Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Life in General. My name is Nick.
I'm Ian.
And as always, you can email us any questions, comments to lifeingeneralmi@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook at Life in General Podcast. On Twitter, we are at LIGPod. Check out our website, lifeingeneralpodcast.com, which has all 30 shows. All 31 episodes of LIG on it, and also has all our episodes of Entertainment Now, which is our other podcast. I was really loud for some reason. I just realized that.
Okay.
Check us out on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, TuneIn Radio, just about everywhere else.
Yep. Smoke Signal.
Smoke Signal. That's the one place you can't find us.
Not yet.
Not yet. Is by Smoke Signal.
Yeah. I'll find someone who knows how to do it, and they'll Smoke Signal our show.
Okay.
Hey, no one's ever done it before, right?
Not that I know of.
All right, there you go. It's
so
original.
We didn't really have much of a topic to talk about this week.
No.
And
well, there's plenty to talk about, but there's a lot of things that are going on in the world that everyone else is talking about right now.
I know, but a lot of it I'm just so tired of hearing about. But
yeah.
At least the political side of all of it. But it just... So when I was driving home from work yesterday, I think it was, I saw like kind of a road rage incident behind me on the road. And it kind of made me start thinking of why our country is so angry. It seems like, and it's been kind of an ongoing theme for probably the last, I don't know, almost 10 years, I'd say.
I'd say, yeah. Maybe even, I don't know, it seems like it kind of started maybe just post 9/11.
Do you think it's been that long that's been going? I
think so, yeah.
I think it's really been noticeable.
It's gotten worse for sure. It's progressive. It's been progressively worse.
Yeah, I'd say like 2000. Like I'd say probably the beginning of like the Great Recession.
Yeah. Well, that's when it probably peaked.
Is when I think, and that's kind of my question is has it always been there? Have we always been this angry country, or is this something that's kind of just?
Well, I think to a degree, yes. If you look at who's the angriest right now, and essentially it's probably the same people. I'm specifically focusing on white men.
Yeah. I
think white men have always been angry, but our country's always been in favor of them, and now that's changing.
Yeah.
And I think it's bringing that anger out. Because think about this. The whole history of our country is based on angry white men.
Yeah.
Angry white men didn't want to pay taxes on the tea and didn't want to, didn't want to be controlled from afar.
Mm-hmm.
So they revolted. It took angry white men to end slavery, which is, that's one of the upsides of anger. Yeah. But it also created other angry white men in reverse.
Yeah. Angry white men who think today that the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Things like that.
They say that to justify their, I wouldn't say outward because it's slightly more it's under the surface, but it's racism. They say that to hide the racism. They do it because they want to be able to proudly display the fact that they aren't comfortable with the way things are going.
Yeah.
The distribution of power, we'll
mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah.
So by saying that the Civil War wasn't about racism, it justifies them being able to fly their Confederate flags and maintain their Confederate pride without outwardly seeming like racists. But at the end of the day, that's what they are. It all stems from racism.
And I don't know if it really does. I mean, I think that's part of it.
It's a huge part of it.
I mean, and it very well might be. But it seems like across the board, across the spectrum, whatever your beliefs are, it seems like we just live in an angry society.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm pointing out. I think it's always been that way. I think it's just we're at a time where everyone can be angry, louder, and anonymously too.
Yeah, and that's kind of my other point was how much of this falls on the media and social media's shoulders?
For right now, I'd say a lot of it does. The media pushes. I hate to say an agenda, because it's not. I don't think there's any real thought behind it. But when you're only exposed to snippets of information,
Yeah.
we're kind of forced to fill in the blanks ourselves. And if you're already an angry person, you're going to fill it in from a point of anger.
You're going to justify your beliefs.
Well, that's what I mean. You're going to fill those blanks in from your beliefs. You're going to justify your beliefs through that. And honestly, I mean, not to get political, but that's essentially what led to a Trump presidency.
Well, I don't know if that's it's Trump, politics aside, was able to tap into that anger,
right,
and propel himself to the White House.
Right, but that's through that gap in knowledge, that gap in information, legitimate information.
Yeah.
Because what filled in the gaps was false information. And
Yeah, but you know what? Regardless of the information, just the anger itself, there has been an anger for a while in this country in Middle America of, look at wages. Wages really haven't gone up since the 80s.
Right.
Actually, they've declined.
Yeah.
With
the rate of inflation and everything.
Well, that, and if you look at, and I know the numbers don't really say so when you look at average household income, but the average household income in the late 70s and the early 80s was produced by one individual.
Right.
Now that average is produced by two.
Typically. Yeah.
Typically. So there's this economic downturn that what I think is what really fueled his presidency.
Well, of course, any economic downturn is going to breed anger and hatred.
And I've been wanting somebody from one side or the other to really address it, and I really felt for the last couple of years, whoever really tapped into that was going to was going to take the election.
But the difference is tapping into it with an agenda, with a plan to fix it, rather than tapping into it just to inflame it and feed off of it.
Yeah.
That's the difference, because we need somebody to not somebody, we need some people to find not a solution, because is there a solution to it? I mean, the anger is never going to go away. As I'm pointing out, I believe it's been there forever.
Yeah.
I think this whole country was built on it. It was, I mean, hell, the pilgrims and all the people who came fleeing to this country in the first place were fleeing because they were angry and disenfranchised.
Yeah.
This whole country, like I said, this whole country was built on it.
But it seems like this is not. It seems like largely this is an American problem.
Typically,
it
is. But that's my point. That what other country? We're talking like Western civilization here. We're the youngest, essentially, with the exception of maybe Canada. But Canada was, I don't know. I don't know the history of how Canada was founded, and I know it's still technically a British province.
It is.
So I obviously can't speak to Canada as a country that's young like us, but we're essentially the youngest country in the Western world.
Uh-huh.
We're maybe this is our angry teen years. I don't know.
But the other thing that could play into that is, and how much of because you look at a lot of other countries in the world, like you just mentioned Canada, UK, most of pretty much all of Europe doesn't have these kind of issues, but those countries don't have the diversity of the United States either. How much of the diversity do you think plays? Because they always,
I don't know if that's entirely true.
Well, it is because if you look at, I know a lot of people like to compare social safety net programs in the United States to that of, say, Scandinavian countries, but they don't have obviously the population or the diversity that the United States does either. That you have to deal with.
Maybe not like say Germany or France, but Britain's population is quite diverse. They have
not nearly to the numbers of the United States.
No, because you've got a smaller population number to begin with.
And
if you look at the percentages, I'd be curious.
And they just had their own racist revolt.
Exactly. I guess you're Yeah, I suppose it's true, but it's still, well, maybe that is it. Maybe that is it. Maybe it is the diversity.
It's just,
I don't want to accept that. Maybe I'm just being pig-headed. I don't want to accept that diversity could be a problem because I don't.
well, I'm not saying it is a problem.
Well, no, I mean as a societal problem, not like, well, let's just stop being diverse. No, I'm saying it's hard for me in the 21st century to see, and I guess it should. I'm just being naive, really, to think that the vast majority of people are still fighting against diversity.
Yeah.
Whereas it should be a very small minority of people at this point in the game. I'm just being naive and thinking in those terms.
Yeah, I mean, but kind of going back to what I was saying though is there so many? Is it just the fact that there's so many different cultures in the United States that it's incapable, that they're just not able to survive all together and blend together, and thus causes friction between.
Friction is going to be a natural thing to a degree, but I will not accept that it's not possible.
Well, I'm not saying. Well, and that's I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I just won't accept that. I won't accept the fact that cultural differences will always keep us apart. Is it part of a problem now? Probably, but I think it's, especially as we have, as the old generations die off, and that includes ours. I think things will get better because it's all about. I mean, just look at integration from the late 60s and 70s and 80s. There are far less racist people.
I would say there's far less open racist people.
All right, well, true. Okay. I guess how I'm looking at it is if you take children who were in school in the late 60s, even after segregation was ended, or early 70s, their exposure to the white, I'm speaking specifically of the white children in white schools, their exposure to African Americans was minimal.
Uh-huh.
So that generation is going to have a higher rate of people who don't accept diverse situations. But as the years go on, we'll take a fifth grade class, say in 1971. A fifth grade class in 1976 would be exposed to a small number, but a larger number than the 71 or 72 of African American children, and their exposure now would possibly shrink the amount of people who can't accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And as each generation goes on, as each group comes through, there's more and more of that diversity, and it makes it easier for them to integrate into society, where society is by nature diverse.
Yeah.
It's all about exposure. I mean, we've said it everybody said it. Hatred is a learned thing.
Yeah,
you learn it's passed down
with.
from your parents. Mm-hmm. If your parents are racist,
or whoever raises you
is going to generally pass that down. So by being exposed to it in school settings, and eventually it's going to get to a point. Now you look at, again, I can only look at our school, the school we graduated from, and other schools in the general area. They're very diverse.
They are
extremely diverse,
and I'm glad they were. I mean,
me too. Those kids who are growing up now in our schools are probably even more. It's even more diverse than it was when we were there.
Yeah, it is.
So they're going to be in a better position to be able to handle diversity outside of the school setting, even more so than we were. And I think we were kind of at that perfect time. Not perfect time, but your family never spouted racist stuff. My family didn't. You always have that one or two family members who do, but it wasn't blatant. My parents didn't. Your parents didn't. We were basically raised to accept people for who they are, and judge them based on their actions and behavior more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very lucky to be in that period because not only do we not have the overt racism at home, we were exposed to diversity in school. It's probably, and we're the parents now. Our age group is the parents of the children in there. So because we weren't exposed to the hatred at home, and we had the diverse cultural mix at school,
Mm-hmm.
our children are going to be even better than us.
But, I think you're also looking at it as on a smaller scale rather than looking at the bigger part of it.
On a national level, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, yes, you're going to have pockets of diversity
And pockets of
in
non-diverse.
a state. And then you're going to have large patches of white America, basically.
But a lot of that is dying off, though.
Yeah, yes and no. But so aside from the racial aspect of it, it's more than just that.
It's economic.
I can't sit down and have a conversation with somebody without it being combative.
Right.
Any kind of conversation turns into an argument nowadays. You can't just sit down and have a conversation anymore. And that has nothing to do with racism.
No, but it's one part of a broader picture that racism is a part of. It's economic.
The lack of conversation?
Well, yeah, I would say to a degree. If you take, I'm trying to think of an example because I've had a few examples of conversations I've had to end because they were going to go down that rabbit hole of anger and not aggression, but anger anyway.
Yeah.
If you take the economics out of our conversation, I think the racism would probably follow. Because at the end of the day, it's not so much about I don't want to be next to that person because they're different than me. At the end of the day, it's more I don't want to give up my job to that person because they're different than me. Or I don't want to have to be like that person next to me.
This person's taking something away from me.
It's taking something away. And that's, at the end of the day, is always economic. It's typically always economic. They use they're taking away American tradition. That's all esoteric bullshit. It's insignificant because none of that's happening. You'll probably hear this. Speak English.
Yeah.
You hear that because the foreigners are coming and taking over. All of them are speaking English. Americans don't learn other languages.
No,
not as a rule. So if they're working, they're speaking our language.
Yes,
no. How they speak to each other? Well, yeah, I'm sure there's exceptions. But
there is. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to speak English to take the citizenship test.
True, but if you have a job
but there's rules to that though. I think you have to be over the age of 55 and you've had to been in the United States for like 10 years or something like that.
So, all I'm saying is that in order to function in an American society, for the most part, you have to have at least a rudimentary ability to speak English. So
I know people that don't.
How do you function then?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Well, but see that I'd see
and
now,
see that
as
granted,
an exception.
I've had different experiences. Obviously, me working in immigration.
Okay, well, see that's. But
I've been exposed to a lot more immigrants than your average person.
Way more than me for sure. But at the end of the day, they still have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
On our level, because like I said, Americans are stubborn. We don't learn all other languages.
Typically
we don't.
Yeah.
So that argument is not a valid argument. Because you hear two people speaking a foreign language to each other.
Oh yeah.
Isn't taking away from anything, but it all comes from that same place. They're coming to take our jobs.
I think
they're coming to take our traditions.
I think some of that's insecurities also.
It is. It's all insecurity.
That when you don't understand what someone is saying, you automatically assume that they're saying something negative.
Right.
They're speaking, so they're talking in their native tongue, so you don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah. Well, And if
which
that's the case,
I've been in situations where that's happened also.
Yeah, but if I see, I'm the type of person, if I don't know what they're saying,
I don't give a shit.
It doesn't bother me.
I don't care. I really don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. And what a complete and utter stranger thinks of me is rather insignificant in the grand scheme. But it's all fed, and it's. I think maybe that's where it's gotten worse, is because there are people in our society right now that are feeding this anger intentionally because it works for them.
But and
take Alex Jones. Do you think Alex Jones would have a show in a world where this level of anger wasn't where it was?
He has for a long time.
Exactly, but he feeds on it.
Yeah.
He feeds on that anger. His show would have failed because he's a fucking lunatic.
Well, and Sean Hannity right there with him. I mean,
oh yeah, Sean Hannity's at the slightly lower end of the spectrum of crazy, but
he does talk about a lot of the same stuff that Alex Jones talks.
Yeah, but Alex Jones just last week said that the liberals are going to nuke Washington D.C. to take out Trump.
Yeah,
seriously.
I know.
I mean, that's the kind of craziness. But if you're an angry white person,
you buy into it.
You buy into it. Really doesn't bode well for white people. We're kind of stupid, aren't we?
But it like looking back on the past 10 years, out of all the people I've worked with, there have been very, very few. Probably I can count on one hand the people I've actually been able to sit down and have a conversation with, and we both have differing opinions on things, and be able to sit down and have an adult conversation about it. I can think of three people out of the hundreds of people I work with.
So you're talking people who are at the opposite end of the spectrum of you.
Yes. Because as soon as they have differing opinions, you automatically get defensive.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of getting defensive too. So.
And they believe that they're right and everyone else is wrong.
Right.
And there's zero flaws to their thinking. And I have been guilty of that in the past.
Me too.
Me too. I think I've gotten a lot better at being able to sit down and have a rational conversation.
Me too. Well, for me, it really came to the point where it was, instead of hearing what someone says and then telling them they're wrong, I ask questions, and that's probably made it a little easier.
You know what though? That's the thing I started doing too, especially in the last couple of years when I had conversations with people, especially when I lived in the South, people with differing opinions. And they'd start spouting all this crazy stuff. And I would just start asking them questions about, well, where'd you hear this from? Where'd you get these facts from? And that even made it even worse. Then the conversation completely ended.
Right.
There was no conversation after that point.
Well, I'm thinking of one example. It was during the Obama administration, and he was doing the whole, Obama's going to take away our guns.
Yeah.
Which hasn't happened. It didn't happen.
It can't happen because there's no legal mechanism to take away guns.
Right. So I said, well, I asked him, I said, first I said, I don't believe that's going to happen. And I said, second of all, the logistics of it would be impossible. And then I said, what would be the point? He goes, well, because that way he can have the military come through and I said, no. I said, even if that were true, if you have guns, the president has drones.
Yeah, exactly. Your guns are irrelevant.
And he goes, yeah, but he won't use those if we have guns because the servicemen won't let him. I said, it doesn't take servicemen. It takes one person to control those drones.
I have a drone I fly around.
Yeah, exactly. If you can do it, anyone can do it.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean, jackass?
I don't know. I've seen you drive. No, I'm just kidding. No, you're a good driver. No, but I just kept asking these questions instead of foisting my opinion on them.
Yeah,
I just kept saying, well, what about this? And it's not, trying to find that common ground of sanity.
Yeah,
I never did, but the conversation ended peacefully. It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But after about 15, 20 minutes, in another situation where where I may have expressed more of my views in that situation, it would have probably ended very badly. And it didn't. It didn't, because I just asked the questions. And I didn't give my view.
Yeah.
That's how I've avoided a lot of those angry
conversations. But that's not conversation.
To a degree, it is, because you're forcing, not forcing, but you're opening up the thought processes.
Yeah.
For both sides, because you're coming at it from, you're not coming from it from an attack position. You're coming from it from an I want to understand.
Yeah.
And that allows them to maybe not necessarily lower their guard, but maybe not put their guard up in the first place.
Yeah, I can see that.
So. That's kind of off to the side of what we're talking about, because we're really focusing on the anger side of it, but
it's all part of it.
That's how I've been able to avoid some of those very angry conversations.
Yeah.
But that's with strangers. That's with people I don't really know. When it comes to people I know, I get very, very angry, because I just feel that, especially when they say things that I feel are ignorant or based on prejudice or hatred, it drives me nuts to think that these are people I know and care about to some degree, and it makes me very angry for them to be thinking that way. So
yeah, but the anger does nothing to.
It doesn't, and if anything, it just shuts the conversation down, and then no one gets anywhere. So
yeah. I don't know. It and kind of go along with the whole anger theme after the recent mass shooting at the school, at the high school in Florida. There's a video that's gone viral. It's by this guy. I think his name is Sean Whalen. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a bearded guy, but he's like,
I think I saw it, but I didn't watch the video.
The video's been shared like a million times on Facebook.
Yeah, and I saw it. I just didn't click on it. I've been avoiding all that stuff, because after the shooting, my Facebook was inundated with just more guns.
Yeah, but he's the whole video was about how the quote unquote snowflake students who were afraid to go and tell the teachers, administration, authorities, whoever about this kid, or the reason why was the reason that there was a shooting there.
But that's not how I understand it now, as we've been hearing.
No,
the FBI was aware.
Yeah,
because students spoke up.
Exactly. But that's the whole. So you got this and this guy's yelling and all that. He's got all these buzzwords that he threw in his video, and it's just simple misinformation that is being shared over and over and over again.
Right.
And it's feeding into this fear and anger narrative in our country.
So what do you think? What do you think the answer is then? I mean, because anger can only be subsided when one of two things. Either one, you realize that your anger is predicated on falsehood, which most people are not going to do, or you get your way.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just human nature. So where do we go from here? Because
nowhere.
The people we're talking about essentially are angry because society is changing. And for those of us who are not angry about it, we see a lot of this change as a good thing. I like the fact that I live in a time where, for the most part, I can walk down the street and have a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
And they can have a conversation with me. I can be in a store or anywhere and be surrounded by people who look like me and don't look like me. I like that. I feel very lucky to be living in this time, relatively speaking to our past, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
But I think right now, I like that, and I'm happy about that. So that's not going to change anytime soon. So the people we're talking about who are angry about that's not going away. So they're not going to get their way on that. So how do we convince them that it's a good thing?
I don't think you're going to. I think it's a lost it's a lost cause.
So what you're saying is as with almost
our
anything,
society is lost, is what I'm saying.
I've actually been saying that for a long time.
I think the only thing that changes anything would be another civil war. It would be the only thing I think that would change anything in this country.
In this day and age, that wouldn't be a good thing.
No, it wouldn't.
It would be the results would be far different than it was, or worse anyway, than it was last time.
Mm-hmm. But outside of something catastrophic like that,
well, I was just going to say,
nothing's going to change.
So this is just one of those situations, like most things in life that are complicated. It has to get really bad before it gets better.
And I don't know if it will get any better, even if it does get really bad.
It's kind of a scary concept.
I know.
don't know. There's got to be something. There's got to be a in between. I
don't see it.
Maybe I'm far too optimistic about.
Which is funny because normally you're not.
I'm negative about. Well, I shouldn't say negative. I'm pessimistic about a lot of things. When it comes to the capability of humanity to move beyond its baser instincts, my optimism is high, and that could just be. It could be naive.
Yeah.
But I won't let go of that. I think we're capable of so much better. We've shown that we're capable of so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Not consistently, but throughout history we have. We've gone through such periods of darkness and bloodshed, and then we have periods of such enlightenment.
Yeah.
We are capable. And I guess it's kind of like having a kid who is brilliant, but they don't apply themselves. And you're just like, I know you're a genius, just fucking do it.
But here's the thing, though. When we've had periods of darkness and depression in our society, we've recognized the problem and we've attacked that problem.
Yeah. We're not recognizing the problem.
We're not recognizing the problem.
A lot of us would probably even say there's not a problem to begin with.
Yeah, it is a cancer on our society.
Yeah.
That no one sees. Or very few people see.
Well, I've said several times in the last few months, because I got friends who are liberal-minded like me, and little things will happen with obviously I'm not a fan of the current administration, and they'll come to me and go, "Hey, did you see this happened, or this person won an election, or the liberal side's coming through," and I just look at them, and for the first time in my life, I just say, "It's done. We've already lost. Progressive ideas, liberal ideas, we've lost. Yeah. The war's over." Mm-hmm. And I've even gone as far as to say Rome has fallen, or will be falling very soon. It's a done deal. That's where I get a little pessimistic. A little. That's an understatement. But it has. We're nearing the end of this run. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be a better run that comes after it, but this run, we're coming to the end of it for sure. It is. It is what it is. The British Empire it's not an empire anymore. It ended.
Yeah,
the American democratic test, we failed.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would. We failed. And the experiment has proven to not work this way. Now we just need to go to the next level and do it the right way, or at least try to fix some of the things we did wrong before.
But like I said, though, if you don't see the problems,
you'll see the problem when the system shuts down.
We'll see,
because I think that will happen. Maybe not. I'm hoping not in our lifetimes, and hopefully not in your children's lifetimes. But we're reaching the end of the line.
But and to kind of play into all that, you've got this corporate aspect.
Well, that's where it's the worst.
That is feeding on this also.
Right.
And I need to preface this by saying that I am a gun owner.
Uh-huh.
I own guns. I like shooting. I'm not an anti-gun person that everyone likes to think.
Because you're liberal.
Yeah.
Or liberal-leaning.
Yeah, liberal-ish.
Yes. Yeah. You're less liberal than you used to be, but more liberal than most.
Okay. If you look at now, these numbers are from October 4th of last year.
Uh-huh.
These are the total lifetime donations from the NRA
uh-huh.
to the members of the U.S. Senate. The top 10. Number one is John McCain. He's been given $7.7 million.
That's over the entire time of his.
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe there's a lifetime numbers. Richard Burr from North Carolina, $6.9 million. Roy Blunt from Missouri has been $4.5 million. Tom Tillis from North Carolina, $4.4 million. Cory Gardner from Colorado, $3.8 million. Marco Rubio from Florida, $3.3 million. Joni Ernst from Iowa, $3.1 million. Rob Portman from Ohio, just a hair over $3 million. Todd Young from Indiana, $2.8 million. Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, $2.8 million. What do all 10 of those people have in common?
They're all Republican.
They're all Republican.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, just to be on the side of balance, there are a lot of Democrats who get money from the NRA as well.
There are. In the Senate, the top two Democrats that have received money from the NRA are Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Patrick Leahy of Vermont. They rank 52nd and 53rd.
As far as donation value?
Total amount given by the NRA.
Okay.
So
the NRA is not gonna back a Democrat generally, just because.
And it's the same way in the House.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, in the House, among the top 100 House recipients, 95 are Republican.
Right. All I was doing, I just wanted to point out that you have to. Democrats are, if you're going at gun control, Democrats are almost as guilty, because they're either guilty of taking the money or not doing enough because they're afraid to lose their jobs. So
it's all about power.
It is. Well, there is no power. They have no power per se. What they have is a job that allows them to make money outside of their job.
Yeah.
Because none of them are making a killing being a senator or a congressman. No one's making a fortune doing that.
They are because most of them have gone into Congress.
That's
not as millionaires, but all of a sudden they are millionaires now.
Right. That's my point.
For a vast majority of the people,
the longer they stay there, the longer they can keep policies going that help the people who are going to financially help them once they get out of office.
Yeah. That's
it. It's not power. If anything, it's groveling.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at these numbers, you can have they're just playing into. They know that there's fear and there's anger, and they see a profit from it. You know, everyone keeps saying, every time you see a school shooting or any kind of mass shooting, they always say, well, you know, the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun
is to have a gun.
Is to have a good guy with a gun.
Right.
But to me, that just sounds like somebody trying to sell two guns.
Yeah. Well, no, I've said it a million times. After every shooting, typically there's a huge uptick in gun sales.
Mm-hmm.
So mass shootings are good for business.
Yeah.
So they're never going to do anything about it. That's my point. It's I wouldn't even go as far as to say it's apathy. It's just they just don't care.
Yeah.
There's more money in us fighting against each other and being angry all the time than working together.
And that's why I said I don't see any kind of solution to the problem.
Yeah.
It's because it's such a complex issue.
The revolution.
There's no simple fix. There's no one idea that's going to fix it. There's no two ideas. There's probably no 10 or 15 or 40 ideas that'll fix it.
I can think of one idea: get money out of politics altogether. That might help a little.
That's not going to stop the anger.
No,
in the country, and that's what I'm talking about.
It'll stop people from. First of all, it might stop the wrong people from running.
That's true.
Second of all, it would stop the rhetoric, the feeding of that anger, to keep their jobs, to keep their base going.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things might help. It would definitely be a huge step in the right direction if we could get money out of politics altogether. Make it illegal to make a living off politics.
Well, at one time it was.
I know.
But there was still.
Oh, there was still backdoor dealing, backroom dealings and stuff like that. I understand that, but it wasn't as prevalent, and it didn't affect the nation overall as much as it does now.
Yeah.
Corporate America has to be found accountable. That's going to be the hardest thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's the corporations. They control everything. So
at this point they do. Yeah.
We need to find a way to create some checks and balances for corporations as far as how politics works.
Yeah.
If we can get money out of politics, that'd be a big step. But that won't be all we'd have to do. We'd have to do other things to keep the corporations in check. We don't want to stop people from making money. The problem is, like,
I want to stop them from making blood money.
Yes, blood money and exorbitant money.
Yeah.
You know, there's reasonable profit margins, and then there's unreasonable profit margins.
Yeah.
there is ultimately we have to find a way to keep them in check and keep them focused on their jobs alone, what they're doing. A corporation has a job. Mm-hmm. Every corporation has something to sell. Me personally, I'm not an economist, but I would understand that at some point in the game, corporations are going to be so powerful that there won't be anyone left to purchase their products. Am I wrong? It's like the Henry Ford model. When he started the car company, he wanted to make sure that if his employees couldn't afford the vehicles they were making, he was doing something wrong. That makes sense. Corporations don't think like that anymore.
No, they don't.
So
it's all about it. It's all about the shareholders. It's all.
So my point is if the richest 1% keep getting richer while the other 99% get poorer, who's going to buy the 1%'s products? Who's going to keep feeding them when there's no more money at the bottom?
There'll always be somebody to keep feeding them.
Who?
They'll feed on each other. I mean, it's
to the point where then they'll wipe each other out.
At that point, I don't know. That'll be a long time from now.
I guess. Well, like I said, I mean, you said it's going to probably come down to some kind of a revolution or civil war, and that again, hopefully not in our lifetime. Maybe that'll be the catalyst for it.
Yeah.
When there's really nothing left for the rest of the world. It happened. I don't see it. That's what happened in France. That's what the French Revolution was about. Yeah. The monarchy kept taking and taking and taking, leaving nothing for the rest of them, and they revolted. And what happened to the monarchy? They all got fucking killed.
But going back towards the original premise of the conversation, about just anger. The other thing, corporations play into it, but the aspect that comes from social media that plays into it is just the sheer volume of misinformation that's intentionally put out there to pit sides against each other.
Right.
Is really, I think, a big part of the fuel that feeds.
You don't think it's coming from the corporations?
It could be, but it's coming from somewhere.
It is. I mean, the corporations own the media.
Well, and it's not that. It's not just that. You see a lot of political misinformation. Corporations aren't putting that out.
No, but they are benefiting from it.
They are benefiting from it. But it's this huge misinformation campaign. Just like the video about the whatever the guy's name was that went viral.
Yeah.
It's all misinformation.
Right.
It's to feed into people that don't have the time or the interest in looking up information for themselves. So a lot of people get their news from Facebook now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And it is. So if that's where you're getting your information from and people are lying to you on there, that's why I said
Well, that's how the Russians were able to hack the election to a degree.
I said for at least the past year or two that that social media be the downfall of Western civilization. Mm-hmm. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but somewhat not.
It's part of the puzzle for sure. It's part of the bigger picture.
Yeah,
absolutely, no question.
But if you came to this show looking for answers, I ain't got none for you.
No. Well, damn it! What the fuck am I doing here then? I came here to get all my answers from you. You're supposed to figure this shit out. What the fuck?
You know what the answer is? Make me king in the United States, and I'll fix it all.
Huh. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in that United States. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No offense.
You want to live in my United States?
No. Some of it would be pretty good.
Well, they'd have to make me king because I couldn't get anything. You can't get anything passed through Congress. So, but then I guess someone would probably just assassinate me. So,
I volunteer.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm just kidding. No, honestly, if you were king, just theoretically or hypothetically, if you were king, some of the things you would fix a lot of problems. I wouldn't still want to live in that world.
There would probably still be a revolution.
Yeah, because
or a revolt.
I think you would get everything fixed, and we'd have this period of like universal peace,
and then everything just go to hell.
But then you'd be like, yeah, I don't like that. So let's stop that. And then there'd be a lot of people go, well, we like that. And you'd be like, no, we got to stop that. And because you're king, we have to stop it. And then we're like, we don't like that. And then you do that to something else. Or you'd say, I like this. And like 50% of the country would be like, no, that's stupid.
So what you're saying is the solution is not to have me be king.
The solution would be not to have kings at all.
Oh, well.
I don't
See, I don't know.
I don't like the idea of inherited power, first of all.
Putting all the comedy aside, it just... That's another part of it, though, is if you have somebody in office that has good ideas and good solutions, not solutions, but ways to improve the situation, you're not getting anything passed through Congress.
No, or the Senate.
But I guess that kind of goes back to the whole money in politics that you were talking about,
yeah.
too. So.
That's really ultimately the key. I think if we can get money out of politics...
I just don't see it happening.
No, and I think also we need to start really finding a way to try to make our news media more accountable for what they say.
Yeah.
We're never going to be able to get rid of the Facebook media or the news feeds that come through Facebook or Twitter. That's never going away. But if we can find a way to make our legitimate media, our legitimate information sources more accountable, and maybe get money out of that too, because that's really when it all went to shit. Is when the media, when news started becoming a moneymaker, a profit
was
margin.
the late 80s.
Exactly. Think about it. I mean, everything we're talking about goes back to the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when it kind of started. Well, at least in the condition it's
downslide.
The downslide, exactly. You get money out of the news and stop making it a profit motive and give it back to the people as it was intended to be, as a lost leader. I mean, hell, you can give tax incentive for it.
Yeah.
Make your news sources free and not profit based, and we'll give you a tax incentive for that.
Yeah, because for most of the existence of traditional media in the United States, it was all the people that own those entities knew that it was going to lose business. It was going to lose money every year.
I mean, they made money.
They made money, but
specifically like papers and stuff,
but not from like traditional, like Channel 7 News or something like that. They knew they were going to lose money on that.
Yeah,
but they were going to make it up in other areas. And in the late 80s, that all changed when they started when these corporations came in and started buying up media outlets and putting the news section into their entertainment side of the business.
Right.
And then it switched to, okay, well, now they need to turn a profit. Now we need to draw eyes. We need to sell commercials, and it was all about advertising dollars and things like that. Well, typically you don't draw eyes to your news channel or your news time slot by reporting what's going on in the town. You draw eyes by talking about the Kardashians and right. More trivial things, I'd call it.
I've always said I hate local news specifically. I hate it all because it's all like that. But local news, you can literally set your watch to it.
They're fluff pieces.
It's fluff pieces. You got your big story, which is usually, at least in this area, it's either a big car crash or a neighborhood shooting or a robbery. That's usually your big, like, ooh, that catches everyone at the beginning. Then you get your partial weather.
Yeah.
Then you have some local stuff. It could be violence. It could be politics. It's just local stuff. Then you get the rest of your weather. Then you get your sports. Then you get this one little fluff piece to make everyone happy at the end. Where, the dog dialed 911 to save its owner.
Yes.
Those stupid fucking stories that drive me out of my fucking mind. I swear to God, I hate it. The 2-year-old who slapped his mom and woke her up from having a seizure or something. I mean, it's always something stupid like that.
Yeah. Something
that doesn't affect anybody. Yeah, it sounds great, but it's there so that we come in, ooh, and then we leave on a happy note.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's anesthetizing the country as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know. I don't have anything else to add, though. I mean, it's just
that's about it.
There's no answer.
No,
we're all screwed.
Other than making you king, I guess.
Yeah, just make me king. It'll all be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you got anything else to add, Ian?
No. I'm not an angry white person. That's the only thing I can add.
Yeah, I guess
I'm angry at white people, but I'm not an angry white person. So.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I mean, it's just, like I said before, it's a big hot mess, and it's going to take a lot to fix all of it. But
Yep.
like always, you can email us any questions, comments to lifeinjournalmi@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter. Check out our website, lifeinjournalpodcast.com. Follow us on iTunes and Podbean and all that. Until next time,
Talk to y'all later.
peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, the niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.